Hey friends, welcome to the Kidsman Collective podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Ralston, and today our episode is called Promotion Sunday Made Simple, Avoiding the Bottlenecks. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how to create class transition rhythms for your kidsmen with a clear promotion Sunday that will help you to avoid the age-based bottlenecks that cause crowding and chaos. So there are some times when we are trying to have some, each ministry or age group is transitioning into the next age level in a slightly different way. And so it's super hard to manage the chaos of uneven transition. So if early childhood is transitioning all throughout the year, but elementary only transitions at one time in the year, parents with kids in both areas might have some confusion around what that looks like. It's also really hard to keep track of which toddler is turning 2 in April and then moving up into the new classroom. Are they moving all throughout the year? Like, what does that look like? Rather than having a more simplified approach that allows you to have one single promotion Sunday and transition kids as they go each year, right? So everybody transitioning at the same time. So we're going to talk through today about creating one clear rhythm that works across your ministry from the youngest of your babies up until the oldest of your elementary kids in your ministry. So let's just address some of the issues that we see with age-based movement. Disclaimer here that works for some people. Sometimes in the context of your church, that makes sense. And that's okay. If age-based is what you need to do, then do that. But if you're struggling with what do these rhythms look like, how to make it consistent, how to feel less chaotic, then this probably is going to be for you to kind of address those things that you're seeing as far as challenges with that age-based movement. So often age-based can work in early childhood for a little bit. And so early childhood is hard because you have birth all the way up until pre-K. From the time they are 0 years old and they've just been born up until the time they're going to kindergarten, there's a lot of developmental changes and things that happen in that time frame versus the difference between a kindergartner and a fourth grader is big, but it just isn't the same, right? Like there's just non-mobile, can't move, cries all the time, just needs their diaper changed, to walking, talking, playing with other kids, learning Bible stories. Like that's a huge jump. So often I see that early childhood does have a lot of age-based promotions, and that works until you start getting kids to bottleneck in one spot. So, for example, at one point when I had the infant age group in my ministry, I had my infants, we were at a pretty big church, so there was a lot of babies and like kids in that nursery age range. And so I had 3 classes based on the child's development level. So prior to them turning 1, they had 3 different groups that they could be part of. They were non-mobile infants, meaning they didn't move, they couldn't crawl. Maybe they could pull up, but that was about it. Then we had crawlers, so they were mobile, but they couldn't walk yet. And then we had, which we all know that they're busy, and then we had walkers, so they were below 1 year old and they were walkers. This worked for this age group because I needed to separate out the kids that were new on their feet and learning how to walk from the non-mobile infants laying on the floor so that the new walkers didn't accidentally sit on the non-mobile babies, right? So that there just needed to be some distinction between that. But what I saw over and over is that at the end of the school year, so everybody else who was 1 year old all the way up until our 12th graders, they moved up to the new age group or the new grade once a year. So every fall in August when school started, we promoted all of our kids to the next age group or grade level. So in the infant age group, we had babies being born all year. So you always had non-mobile and you always had crawling. But then at the end of that year in July, you would have a huge bottleneck of all of these babies that were not one yet, but they were all walking and they'd been in the ministry for the last year and now they all walk and now they're all just stuck in this one classroom. And you might not have a lot of um, kids in the other two age groups. And so, how do we prevent that? Um, the infants are going to be the hardest one, and probably you're going to have to do some figuring out of what works in your room. If you already have a nursery classroom and all those ages are together, then that's probably okay. You might have to have an interim class maybe that is to take out those kiddos that are, about to move to the 1-year-old class. Yeah, you're going to have to strategize with that. And so I'd love to chat with you about what your unique context is and what that looks like for you and how to actually map out that infant age group. But as far as going up into the other ages, so toddlers and preschoolers and elementary age groups, I highly, highly recommend this once a month, I'm sorry, not once a month, once a year promotion into the new age group. So that way it will just help prevent some of those bottlenecks. So the other place that we see sometimes that there's a little bit of a glitch in this process of like finding bottlenecks in here is when you have preschoolers moving to kindergarten and kind of what to do with them in that age group. So let's just talk through that. Let's talk through what it looks like to kind of even out the distribution of kids per classroom and not have overfull rooms or underused rooms or classrooms or teachers, but also to communicate with less confusion about how and when our kids move up. So some of the things that I have seen as just kind of the powerful reasons behind why I would recommend a specific date to promote to the new age group is the set date provides clarity for your parents and volunteers. So this is really helpful. A lot of, for example, elementary leaders, at least at the church I was serving at, an elementary leader might move up every year with their kids to the next grade. In early childhood, we didn't see that so much. We typically had one volunteer who loved to serve with 4-year-olds. And literally, I'm not kidding. I had a volunteer couple that had been serving for like 30 years in the 4-year-old age group. They are still serving in that age group. It is phenomenal. So those leaders moved up differently. So if you have a elementary leader who's been with kids since kindergarten and now they're 4th graders, they have progressed in age with those kids. If you have an early childhood leader who has a group of 4-year-olds that are getting ready to go to kindergarten, their age and their development is at a much different place than the baby little just turned 4-year-olds who are about to come in. So when you set a date for a promotion Sunday, you're preparing those leaders to know, okay, great. I'm about to send off all of my pre-K kids who are going to go to kindergarten and who have matured a lot in the last year. And I'm about to get a group of kids who are basically a whole year younger. They have barely just turned 4 and they're not quite at the same place that all of my pre-K kids were to go send to kindergarten. So you're setting clarity for the volunteers and knowing what to expect in those shifts coming, and or you're providing the ability for those elementary leaders to move up year to year with their kids. So you're setting clarity for volunteers. You are also setting clarity for parents. It can make it way less complicated if there is one Sunday in the whole year that they know, oh, this is the week that my kid moves to the new grade or to the new early childhood age group level. And this is how this works. And it's just one time. Parents are prepared to show up and say, okay, this might be hard if we have a lot of littles and they're struggling with transitions. So creating that one set date and clarifying that with families is super helpful. So some of the things I've heard them called multiple different things over the years, but you can call them something easy like promotion Sunday or move up Sunday, step up Sunday, level up, whatever you want to call that, whatever makes sense for your ministry. But those are some great ways to just communicate that and name it and step into that each year so that parents know what they're moving into and volunteers, leaders know what they're moving into. Um, Take a moment on these Sundays. I know that these are chaotic. We used to joke that it was just going to be the busiest Sunday of the year because in early childhood, you had a lot of kids that were crying because they weren't with the same teachers or they didn't know what it looked like. They were in a different classroom. Like they just were trying to figure out the transition and understand that. I would also get little baby, toddlers that barely could, just started talking 6 months ago and don't even interact with each other very much, and they're coming into my 3-year-old classrooms. Like it just there's a lot of pieces in that, right? Like it looks a lot different. So on those promotion Sundays when it is busy and chaotic, take time to celebrate and equip the families, the parents, the volunteers. You can do fun things that allow you to, have a photo booth or something like that where it's, celebrating these milestones, kind of like a graduation feel, right? Like, congratulations, you did it. And just practicing that transition and that it's okay to transition, right? This also can help you. I typically would recommend doing this on a school year calendar so it can help you stay aligned with the school year. So either to do that in August when school starts, you promote all the kids up. So over the summer, they would stay with the grade that they just finished. Or when school gets out in May or June, whenever that is, then once school is out, you promote them to the next level. So they have the summer to adapt to what does it look like to be in the next grade level or the next age group. So I recommend figuring out which one of those aligns with school year and keeping it on that rhythm. And that will just kind of help with overall calendar for you throughout the year. Those are also typically pretty natural transition times for both families and kiddos at school, but also for volunteers. People are, re-upping commitments. They know that school year provides different structure and rhythms. And so those are pretty good ways to typically handle that rotation of promotion dates. So, just a couple of practical tips to help make those transitions a little bit more smooth is to communicate those dates in advance. So a couple months before they're happening, make sure that parents know what's on their radar. Hey, we're going to promote or we're going to advance in 2 months, 3 months, whatever. This is the date of promotion this year. Make sure you're communicating that. For some of the more major transitions, for example, probably from pre-K, where they're going from a specific classroom feel into a different setting for kindergarten, and or from like lower elementary to upper elementary. That's just dependent on how you structure your rooms. But then again, from your upper elementary, your last or your oldest grade into youth, those are really great places for you to set up a preview Sunday. So walking your kids from pre-K over to kindergarten so that they can see what it's like to be in an elementary classroom, and walking if you do have different early elementary and older elementary, having them, if those look different, walking them to the upper elementary. And then once you have those upper elementary students, kids, you will want them to be able to see what student ministry is going to be like. So anywhere you see a major transition from one age group to the next, it's going to be super helpful to have some kind of a move up or a preview Sunday for those kids if the way that their class structure is going to look when they move to the new age group, if that looks very different. So yeah, just considering what that could look like. Another thing you can do is you can use signage. I would recommend definitely communication, whether that's emails, take-home sheets, text message notifications, signs on the check-in stations, any way you can communicate to families, hey, it's promotion Sunday, things are going to be different today. That is going to be super helpful. So obviously communicating that in advance, but also reminders, don't forget next week is promotion. And then when it's promotion Sunday, don't forget, it's Promotion Sunday. Here's how we do this, and this is where your kids are going to be. You can also make it super fun. Create photo ops if you want to have a photo booth, or, I'm going to elementary, or I'm going to student ministry. Create those opportunities to celebrate. These are milestones, and these are fun things and transitions that we get to celebrate with our families and our kids. So be willing to do that and engage in that. Also, to help make these transitions smoother, make sure you're training and equipping your volunteer leaders for the age expectations of the new groups coming in. So, if you have those baby, like I saw this a lot, our 2-year-old class group, they started out the year as 2-year-olds and turned 3. They learned to potty train in that time. They are learning to talk and interact with other kids. And so that is a whole different ball game than those 3-year-olds coming into a classroom. So when they transition from that 2-year-old space to the 3-year-old space, sometimes they're coming in and they're not even potty trained as they become a new 3-year-old. So your 3-year-old teachers who just sent off a bunch of kids who are now 4 and they're ready to go to pre-K and they're probably in actual preschool programs are getting a bunch of kids who have barely started potty training. Some of them haven't potty trained. Some of them are, struggling to interact with other kids. Like, that's just a whole different game. And so equipping those volunteers to know what to expect for those age groups. You're going to see those again. I think it's going to be mostly in those places where there's a big difference between the class that they're coming from and the class that they're moving to. So early childhood, we see a lot of this, but also in those big jump transitions between how they do classroom time. So train your volunteers in that. If you have a system that hasn't been super working, or you're trying to figure out a shift to make a different choice or a different decision in how you want to execute a Promotion Sunday, or you're migrating from we promote all year long in different age groups into I'm wanting to pick one date, don't worry that it hasn't been perfect. Like, you can still change it, and you have that ability to do that. I'm happy to walk alongside you to help you navigate that, to figure out how to make it work, help your ministry be set up in a way that allows you to help kids to know what to expect, volunteers to know what to expect, families to know what to expect, and that works for you. If you need to not have bottlenecks in specific age groups, let's figure out how to do that. So I would love to talk strategy and how to divide your age groups and or create a move up plan that works for you. So if that is something you're interested in, if you're looking for support in this, you need help, you want to brainstorm, you want to think through that, I would love to connect with you. I want to know about your ministry. I want to learn about how you're doing ministry, how I can support you. And I would love to walk with you in creating a plan that avoids bottlenecks and really serves you and your families well. So if you want to do that, I would love to hop on a call. I have a free 30-minute consulting call available on the homepage of my website, ozarkministryconsulting.com, or you can find the link in the description of this podcast, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks for joining me today on the Kidsmen Collective podcast, where we're all about nurturing leaders and impacting generations. Before you go, I want to invite you to take the next step in growing your ministry with confidence. I've created a free Kidsmen Leader Assessment designed just for leaders like you. It walks you through the 5 key areas: purpose, people, programming, physical space, and procedures, helping you celebrate what's going well and uncover where there's room to grow. Whether you're a brand new leader or you've been leading for years, this tool will give you a clear picture of where your ministry stands and where it could go with a little strategy and support. Head over to ozarkministryconsulting.com to get started. You'll find the assessment right on the homepage, quick, simple, and packed with insight. And if this episode encouraged you, share it with a fellow leader or leave a review. We're better when we grow together. Until next time, keep leading well, Keep loving big, and remember, your ministry matters.